Thanks to Scott Reichert for our fabulous South Side Sox Mothership podcast theme music. Unfortunately, we will not be listening to that song or even the actual Don't Stop Believin' song as a retread from 2005 as the White Sox pursue a World Series title. It's just not going to happen this year. And well, my name's Brett Ballantini. I am the host of this particular podcast. It's number 68 Mothership Podcast. And I don't know anything about Festivus or Soxivus or whatever. I'm just admitted I'm not too learned in the Seinfeld canon. So I'm going to kick this off by passing it immediately to the feistiest of all. Before the season even ended, he was talking about this story. So all credit due to the fabulous feature linked in this podcast post, our Soxivus grievances. Tommy, please tell me how, aside from you just being a little bit rankled about how the ALDS is going, how to come about, and just give us a little bit of an overview about what the heck this is.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I just want to say thank you all to contributing to this, because really my own anger can only get me so far in life. I need the camaraderie of others to help see it through. But I know you're not a Seinfeld fan, Brett, but basically, as the whole second half of the season, there was just kind of this angst that I felt building throughout all of South Side Sox and the greater White Sox nation. And it just kept building and building and building. And then with the ALDS kind of running the way it did with the Houston Astros, basically, beating the crap out of the Sox more often than not, it felt like we all could use a release. And I just kept coming back to, the famous Frank Costanza quote saying, "I got a lot of problems with you people, and now you're going to hear about it." And I know for me, I had a list in my head of things that were just pissing me off throughout the year, that it's like, I can finally talk about all these things now, because now no one can yell down at me about how Tony La Russa is going to fix everything, because he didn't. And this was our opportunity to kind of put together our list of grievances and air them out for the general public.
Merry Soxivus, everyone. Tommy, I should have interrupted you right at the top of your introduction, because you basically explained what being a White Sox fan is. It had to do with something about sharing anger in that. I was like, you just got, that should actually be on, that should be the subtitle of the pocket schedule for this year, next year, and all years to come. We are just going to run down the list. I just published them as they came in order. So Tommy, you don't even get to kick off, because you were really taking your time with all your grievances. We are going to begin with Adrian Serrano is here with us. Let's do a quick roundtable of who's here. We've got Adrian Serrano, participant in Soxivus. We've got Super Joseph Resis, participant in Soxivus. Myself, participant in Soxivus. And of course, Zach Hayes, participant, the only person I think who wrote longer than Tommy Barbee. He had some grievances. So we will get to Zach's in a bit. We're going to kick off with Adrian. I tried to sort of summarize in our poll. I'm actually going to check in on that poll during this podcast, but I tried to summarize what everybody's grievance was. A lot of people sort of went in some different directions. I think I went with sort of, for Adrian, it was sort of like moving the goalposts, but you don't have to attend to that. Adrian, time to grieve.
Yeah, I definitely felt that same thing, starting probably just before the All-Star break, I think, with Tommy. Like, you started to feel it, you started to see some things like, that doesn't seem right. And like, the more you started to bring it up, the more you're kind of just told constantly to, just settle down, just enjoy the ride. Everything's going to be fine come playoff time. And like, now we saw what happened in the ALDS. We saw that embarrassment. And then all of a sudden, this whole part of the fan base just kind of changed over to, enjoy the ride. Just wait till next year. Our window's just opening up. And it's like, what happened? Like, how did you fall for this banana in the tailpipe that Rick Hahn gave you, that everything's going to be fine? Like, and I just don't understand. Like, if you or I would have walked up to Tim Anderson in spring training when he said that the White Sox were the best team in the American League, and told him, like, not only are you not the best team in the American League, but you're going to get embarrassed by the Houston Astros, like, he would not have taken it well. But to see him like the next 2 days after the loss like that, saying that this was a success and they're just happy to have gone to the playoffs 2 years in a row, just really rubbed me the wrong way as a fan that took the GM at his word that they were ready to compete this year, and anything short of a World Series was going to be a disappointment. So all I'm doing is holding them to their word, and I am very aggrieved.
Those people who are saying just enjoy the ride, they picked up a different free pocket schedule before the season. They are looking at the wrong pocket schedule, because people are saying right now, they're like, oh, what are these clowns all chuckling over? These chuckleheads are just getting their laughs in on they won 93 games, man. Hey, Adrian, what do you got to say, man? They won 93 games.
Yeah, I mean, and that's I just had this discussion on Twitter last night with a bunch of these people again, and like I had to stop and say, me being angry at my team for holding them to their word does not preclude me from also being hopeful about the future and the talent on this team going forward. I'm just saying that they had a chance to win this year and didn't really seem prepared for it. When you see a team like Atlanta was another team that really was in, they could have sold off and just gave up on this year and said, hey, we got talent, we're going to go forward. But they decided, we see a chance this year in a weak division, we're going to go for it this year. And that's all I want from them. I just wanted them to look prepared. I'm okay with them losing. I'm just not okay with them looking like they did not belong. So if they got blown out by the Astros, what are the Red Sox right now blowing out the Astros, the 27 Yankees? I don't understand. How does this power dynamic keep working? But yeah,
a real quick detour from grievances. I would never have thought that we could have 4 less likable teams left in the playoffs, especially with the Yankees not being involved. This playoffs just sucks.
Yeah, it's not fun so far.
And that's just a mic drop moment. Deal with it, people. No comments necessary.
At least the Dodgers and Giants, and now the Dodgers and Braves has been at least interesting and to watch. It's decent baseball, at least. That's all I can hope for.
Joe, not that I picked up on any body language, but are you at least a little bit in the camp where it's 93 wins, Adrian, you need a hug? We're going to get to your grievance, but do you have a little sympathy for the bigger picture of we should appreciate this, or are you not going for that?
I can absolutely understand it. It's disappointing, certainly, to have such an early playoff exit for the second straight year. Obviously, at the beginning of the year, if all you would have told me about the season was that they would have cruised to the division title with 93 wins, not telling me anything about the playoff results, just that part of, having been a mystery, I would have happily accepted that, just because, I thought the Twins would beat them, and I'm not going to take that for granted. And there would have at least been, a possibility of a deep run in the playoffs, but having such an early exit for the second straight year is obviously not what you want to have happen. And that's certainly a good point about a little bit of goalpost moving from the team having such high hopes in spring training to losing 3 out of 4 games, which all of those, none of those were really particularly close either. So yeah, I have some sympathy there for sure.
Okay, Adrian, Joe is totally behind you on your grievance. Your grievance is legitimized. Tyrone Palmer, he threw in, he was really the most direct Tony La Russa. I think a lot of us sort of nudged towards Tony La Russa. Sort of hard to avoid that elephant in the room, but yes, I mean, he definitely dinged the White Sox for taking a step back, both in the PR aspect of it, because we've got a lousier, less smiley, less good manager in that you can't put him on a pocket schedule. So they sort of lost the PR there by losing Ricky Renneria. And then, of course, strategy wise, they got nothing better and arguably worse than Ricky with Tony. Celeste, Dog Day. Who will not appreciate the fact that there was no Dog Day this year? And really, that's an underrated grievance right there. Jackie Cresto focused most on Craig Kimbrell and his weird presto changeo move. This is something near and dear to Zach Hayes's heart because he has studied this, and yet Zach, you seem to be giving me like a little bit more hope that this is more of an anomaly. Do you really think that Kimbrel, given his age, do you think really this was possibly or definitely an effect of the weirdness of, you know, the pandemic season, et cetera? Or well, I guess what I'm asking is, or is Kimbrel toast?
Yeah, I don't know if he's ever going to be as good again as he was for the first 4 months of this year, just because for anybody of any age, that's really, really hard. I don't think he's as bad as what we saw.
Right.
As I've said many times, I think he and Rodon were afflicted by more or less the same thing, and that's throwing twice as many innings as they have in the past 2 years combined. Regular offseason, which Kimbrel hasn't really had after a full season for 3 years. I don't think he's toast. I don't know how good he's going to be, and I wouldn't be opposed to trading him, I don't think. But I don't think he's toast.
And Zach, very generous there, because you ignored a key factor, because I read your story very carefully. I try to get smarter about the White Sox and baseball and being a human. The what would seemingly be the easiest thing, don't run the guy out back to back, or maybe not back to back to back. And you just gave Tony a pass on that.
Yeah. I've said it a lot. There's only so many questionable bullpen decisions you can kind of be mad about at any given time. I'm
You don't juggle that many.
And it's, you got to give if we're going to be in for it for another season, which I'm preparing myself for at this point, then yeah, I'm going to take my well-earned break. I'm going on another podcast on one Wednesday, in which I'm going to talk about an article I wrote earlier this year, and the Kimbrel one was actually suggested, and I was like, I think I'm done relitigating Craig Kimbrel and Dallas Keuchel for at least another, I'm going to be honest, like 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay. I mean, I'll give you
Let's be real. I would love to say 6 months, but we're not getting there.
Well, all right. Zach is speaking to the what you led off with, Tommy, and that is just, let's share the pain. Let's yell into the void, but it's not the void. It's podcast number 68. And before we take a break, we are going to go to the man himself, the originator, the man who was grumbling before the season even ended, because he just sort of knew how it was going to end. It's Tommy Barbee, who had a long grievance, but I guess what really jumped out at me was the fact that there was really no connection between front office that hired the manager and the manager who was the manager, which maybe leads you to believe the manager was just sort of running the front office. But all right, make sense of it for me, Tommy.
Yeah, I wish I could. And I wasn't able to this whole season. And that has been the struggle for me. And really the crux of, I felt like, even most of the grievances that we talked about, because it's like, if Craig Kimbrel is put in a better situation, there's no way he puts up the numbers that he did for the White Sox in the second half of the season. If, you could go back to the whole Michael Kopech thing, where it's like, we're going to use him, then we're going to stretch him out, and then in the playoffs, he's magically going to be able to pitch 6 innings, but he can't start. And it's just like, there was no, if they knew what was going on, they're just really bad at PR. I know Sox usually aren't that bad at PR, so I have a feeling that there's just a total disconnect on who really was responsible for what and who was taking care of what. And to me, whether you look at the beginning of the free agency where they rushed out and signed Adam Eaton, because I guess the one thing missing was just a bad slap hitter with red ass, like that somehow was the magic thing that they needed for the season.
I mean, they didn't even get the red ass.
They didn't. No, they got nothing. And I mean, it's like, from that point on, they were making moves that in a vacuum, sure, you can forgive and wouldn't be an issue, but compounding that with a team that didn't shift, a team that didn't manage the bullpen well, a team that didn't have the defensive flexibility that apparently Tony La Russa desired, it really never made sense. And I still don't know how they're going to resolve that next year, because their wish list is pretty much the same as it was going into the season.
It should get easier. It should get easier.
It should.
They should.
Ideally. Yeah.
They don't have to write it on the palm of their hand in ink or permanent marker any longer. It's pretty much just there. All right. On Tommy's note, sort of related was Lee Allen's grievance, although I think he really wanted to just pound the heck out of Tony because he does do that, but in an ancillary way. His focus, and it's something he on the Sharing Sox podcast was hammering with son Will Plenty, and that was I guess you call it overuse of starters, too deep into games or too many pitchers, because combined with some, I guess, inefficiency in the starters, Tony La Russa all year long was really pushing health, sort of got it thrown in his face with the Carlos Rodon injury, which again, all that stuff could have happened if Rodon was just held to 5 innings all year. But Tony sort of like didn't care. He was like, I'm going to just do it the way I do it, and was really he was shaking hands with Danger there for sure. And I guess the Danger did sort of jump up and bark at him. Whitney Hale, newest addition to the South Side Sox family. She threw in, which we've heard a little bit about. It's sort of taken me by surprise that the Frank Menechino is getting dinged a bit, but I guess after that ALDS, you would get dinged. She's had enough of Frank Menechino. She wants the White Sox to hit the ball in the air and maybe have a few more of them go over the fence. I don't know if it's that simple. She made it sound sort of simple, but maybe it is that simple. Is it that simple, guys? Are they going to just be able to hit?
It's kind of tied to Tommy brought it up. Like, they don't shift, which is a Tony thing, and they also hit into a lot of shifts. It's like they are just like ignoring everybody else's data that shifts work. Like those hard ground balls are not going through because the other teams are shifting, and the other team's ground balls are going through because you're not shifting, and that's all going in the wrong direction. It's the one thing that they're on the same page about, it seems.
Yeah, and the ground ball rate is so high for the White Sox. I mean, they have nowhere to go but up. But I think the only issue I have with calling out Menechino solely is that you're talking about an organizational problem. Like, at every level, the White Sox need to change their hitting philosophy to actually hit the ball into the air. You can't just say, okay, hitting coach is going to preach that, but they're still doing it in AAA and AA. Like, they need to overhaul their whole philosophy.
And to what Adrian said about the shifting, sort of getting hit on both ends of that, it's almost as if somebody in the organization thinks it's the 2012 season, not the 2021 season. I don't know who that could be, but I think maybe one person did really believe that. But all right, let's take a quick break, because then we're going to get to Super Joseph and a grievance, a wailing that is near and dear to my heart. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with South Side Sox Mothership Podcast, Soxivus Podcast. Merry Soxivus, everyone. Number 68. We'll be back in just a minute. Hey, guess what? Minute's up. We're back. We don't mess around here. We are getting right back to the grievances. We aired grievances. I believe we had a dozen, 12 or 13. Good participation. It's the Tommy Barbee leadership is what it really came down to. When Tommy says, guys, complain, everybody's like, okay, let's complain. Let's get going on it. And, you wouldn't think Super Joseph Resis would get, too rankled, but when it came to right field, he got a little rankled. And I think what he's seeing in the NLCS is making him even more rankled, but take it away, Joe.
Both the NLCS and the ALCS, I should mention. Shortly after the White Sox got Lance Lynn and Adam Eaton this offseason, I wrote, the Lance Lynn, I'm not going to complain about. Yeah, he was bad in the playoffs, but I mean, he had a great season. Astros are a tough lineup. He had one bad game. Adam Eaton was just a failure all around. There's really no other way of spinning that. And yeah, like you said, Jock Peterson has been playing very well in the NLCS, and that was pretty hilarious timing yesterday as far as me finalizing my grievance for this piece, and Jock Peterson hitting that long home run on Sunday night. Anyways, about that piece that I was mentioning that I wrote last offseason, I had mentioned Kyle Schwarber by name as far as a potential option that would be in the White Sox budget, and obviously far from a perfect player, but I saw him as a potential buy low opportunity, as he didn't exactly end his Cubs career on a high note. He only had the OPS right around 700 in the shortened 2020 season, and there were a lot of questions as far as his defense is concerned. And naturally, a common response that I got from suggesting the White Sox get him was, with Eloy in left field, do you really want to have two bad corner outfielders? And yeah, that's a very legitimate concern, certainly. But with the budget constraints, it's going to be difficult. You're not going to be able to get Mike Trout for $5 million a year. So I would have been totally fine with that. And especially, the whole Indiana thing also works in his favor a little bit, but he hit a grand slam in the ALCS game just a little bit ago. And so that was also very good timing for this podcast as well. There was Peterson and there was Schwarber, two options who I would have been totally in favor of. And they've both been playing very well in the postseason.
Podcast audience, Super Joseph Resis is reporting from Indianapolis, Indiana. You may not have picked up on that yet. He is half of the Indianapolis field office. Okay, Joe, you mentioned budget restrictions. And speaking of budget restrictions, and speaking of perpetual problems that the White Sox don't have to scrawl on the palm of their hand to remember that they're there, let's move right into the next grievance, another one near and dear to my heart. It's Zach Hayes and payroll.
Yeah, I don't know how I would condense that one into a poll question.
It's just an eye roll.
It's just like, so we were our understanding of this team, this core that they've put together, is that it's different. This is different than all the other however many decades of mostly attempting, at least in name, to contend under Jerry. This is a group of young electric stars who are going to be with the team for confirmed throughout their prime years. And yet nothing this season makes this feel any less like a Jerry Reinsdorf operation. And if you know, that's all I can that's all I can really say. LaRusse is not going anywhere, and we saw what happened. Did it change anything? Apparently not. They're still not going to sign. They're not going to sign Marcus Semien. They're probably not going to spend more than what they've given to Liam Hendricks or Yasmani Grandal over the past couple of years. That 9-figure contract is just not coming from Jerry Reinsdorf. And at a certain point, that's what needs to happen to make the roster better, to put you over the edge, so you don't wind up in that 93 win, are we there territory. The farm system kind of sucks again. There's a lot of nice looking players down there, but it is what it is. I think I said the words I used was even an optimistic reading. They're still in the bottom third of the league. They don't invest heavily in the draft or in international. They do in international free agency, but they put all their eggs in one basket with players like Cespedes and Vera. And how do you pronounce Oscar Colas?
Yeah, I think Colas.
Yeah,
Colas. And if those guys don't work out, if they don't turn into another Luis, then what do you got? Who do you trade guys for? How do you make those trades that the Padres are making this year? And those are all characteristics that have existed in Jerry Reinsdorf teams, not only in the White Sox, multiple teams. There's a lot of history here. And that's scary, in spite of how wonderful and electric and really good this core is. They're going to be around, but it's hard to have confidence that they're going to do what they need to do to go over the edge. And that's my grievance right there. Zach, we should have that confidence by now, and we don't.
I did notice the Freudian slip of 6-figure deal. Very good. Noted. And eggs in a basket. You could tell, I think I know what you're getting at, but Cuba, the eggs, they're Cuban eggs. If it's Cuba, Sox got them. Anywhere else on the planet, or maybe even the solar system? No. Okay, to round out the lineup, we had Crystal O'Keefe, who's just simply confused by the use of Michael Kopech. She's brought it up, I think, a couple times in podcasts, but not really sure if he should have been stretched out a little bit better for a prep for next year. I think she's a little bit more panicky about that than some others. I think he's going to have time to stretch out and be a starter, but certainly drilling down to the use in the playoffs. Oh, I'm all in with Crystal on that one, because I was very puzzled apparently he was maybe in the ICU in Houston, because I thought maybe we would have seen him. And even Tony said, if they had a chance to win, he would have pitched him. Oh, Tony. Okay. Well, speaking of Tony, let's bring this home, because my grievance was a little less Tony. Believe it or not, I managed to not have something really directly Tony related as my grievance, but it really was the free agency approach. The fact that the White Sox, I mean, I guess it really drills down to Adam Eaton, Joe. So I guess I did sort of steal from you, but the idea that was your day one of free agency. We knew the guy we wanted. We just grabbed him. And then you drop the mic. That was the only offensive contributor you brought into this team. And it's great that the White Sox from there had a run of luck with the Billy Hamiltons, I guess, of the world, the retread guys, and even some of the guys called up. But you shouldn't have put yourself in a position to need these extraordinary efforts and these very, let's face it, probably lucky efforts in a lot of cases to sort of redeem the season and get to 93 wins. See, I knew I would find a way to have grievances and wail about a 93 win team. I was only 4 wins off, Tommy Barbee. I was closer to the final win total than you. And
That's true.
Yet I'm the grump and the grouch. And then Hamster had another topic near and dear to my heart: the absolute lack of managerial hiring process. I believe it was even likened to something like a styrofoam process. But the fact that the White Sox have gone now 18 years, I guess it's going to be 19 years, without an actual interviewing process since Ozzie Eaton. And the fact that the White Sox just straight out lied. I guess Rick Hahn maybe didn't know he was lying at the time when he looked into all of our eyes on Zoom and all of our eyes out there in the world watching him on White Sox TV, and said, yes, we're not only going to have a process, we're going to look outside of the organization, because we recognize we've been a little bit too inbred with the way we have done things. So we are make a concerted effort to go outside. And then really within days, the social media joke that quickly turned to horror, then turned to reality. And they did not, I guess technically they went outside the organization. I think, as Tyrone Palmer put it, well, at least Jerry Reinsdorf gets to have his buddy around all the time. Gosh, isn't this a great way to run a baseball team? Put that on your pocket schedule, White Sox. Okay, how about this? Wild card time. Anybody have a grievance on the tip of their tongue that either did not get snapped up by someone else or really was like neck and neck for what you were going to write on?
Going to what Hamster said, when are we going to see Cito Gaston get his, due time with the White Sox now that he was wrong with the Ozzie Guillen hire? Is he available for the 2023 season?
Yeah. I mean, he was technically hired and then had to be.
I think he's only a year. I think he's only a year older than Tony, so it's not really.
Oh yeah, yeah, he's totally there. Yeah, no, that, and I think a lot of us sort of had that in our minds. Like, well, I mean, how can you not? Because among all the things wrong with the process, and believe me, you don't have to drill down very deep to see what's wrong with hiring Tony La Russa in 2021, including the news that broke as he was hired. Just the fact that it was such, I think, as you put it, such a sham. I mean, it makes you feel like what this is what
they left AJ Hinch's signature on the freaking
exactly.
I also have
man.
Quick. I have
Try a little bit.
Stat. I did some research in the Adam Eaton thing for Joe, and out of all the free agent outfielders last year, the average WAR was 0.5. And Adam Eaton finished at negative 0.38, 0.8 below the average of anybody else they could have signed.
And again, Adrian, Joe, we got 0 red ass WAR. We could have at least got like 2 red ass WAR, and we could have, we'd have a fun story to talk about, right? We'd be like, oh yeah, remember when he invited Baby LaRoche back in? I mean, we'd have a fun story we could chuckle about right now. We didn't even
fight one person that got after Abreu got hit, 15 times on the roster. He didn't try to fight anybody in that.
Right.
Brought
or even
nothing to the table.
Yeah, even on the Angels, you didn't like somehow find a way to come back and like, run into the locker room and like
Yeah, hey,
clear a locker for Drake.
This isn't funny. The man has to pay a mortgage and he doesn't have a job.
Mortgage.
Why are we laughing?
Nice, Todd Frazier Hayes. Nice, Todd Frazier Hayes. Okay, others that didn't maybe make your cut, even Tommy, who wrote at length, and Zach, who wrote at length.
I think really Hamster's piece on the managerial hire just like really struck home to me, because I knew it in the background, but just like seeing that in print just hurt. That the White Sox have been that incompetent for this long is just bad and painful. And that really struck a chord with me.
I mean, I have to throw the flag because I believe there were at least 5 interviews over the last 19 years or whatever, because I believe Willie Harris did get that courtesy interview this last time around. So I think she forgot about Willie Harris. So really 5. Yeah. And Tommy, the other thing, that seems like it was like 8 years ago that all that happened too.
Yeah.
That's another part of this. It's like, wait, is that really for this Soxivus? Was that maybe last one? Because it doesn't seem like that could have even been this year, but well, it was for this season. And yeah. Okay, everybody. Now, is this Tommy? Again, you're more scholared in this. At what point do we grab the bottle of Tums, or do we just not get to do that? Is that part of we have to suffer?
We move on to the feats of strength.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
That's when we find out who's going to wrestle Tony La Russa.
Yeah, Tony La Russa gets wrestled.
This is actually, believe it or not, this is coming. We are doing this. We are going to take the Tommy concept and we're going to push it we're taking it to the 10, no doubt about it. We started with Soxivus, and now, we're gonna. It's not all gonna be necessarily doom and gloom. Oh no, there will be. There will be feats of strength, and there will be other antics throughout this entire offseason. This is just the first antic, and unfortunately, this sort of isn't. I mean, Joe, I wish this was just like a goof. Adam Eaton, it really happened. I wish that they hadn't hired Tony La Russa. It happened. We wish that there weren't perpetual issues about the needs, the want list, or the payroll issues that Zach wrote on, but these are real issues. I wish this was fiction. I wish this was Yoan Moncada getting ready to go on stage for his coffee house debut. And believe me, we will have more of those as well. In fact, maybe even somebody here has even written 1 or 2 of those as well. So a lot of stuff coming soon. South Side Sox readers, fans, listeners, watchers. It's not just, it doesn't end at Soxivus, but Tommy, I guess, maybe we should kick it back to you just to take us out of this, because did you consider it a good? Did you consider it a good Soxivus?
So far so good. I think it was a very cleansing effect to air our grievances. The comments have been really good to see, and I think the readers are enjoying the participation. So, I'm excited for that. And, now that we've all kind of exercised all that and seeing how the rest of the baseball playoffs play out, I think we'll be ready for feats of strength and all the upcoming Soxivus festivities that we have planned.
Yes, maybe I believe we may have advent calendars available, somewhere, somehow. This is not a competition. I may make very clear. Really, it is just an exhibition. So, of course, as you know, no wagering. But Tony La Russa, which I guess is Tyrone's topic, 21% of the readers are agreeing with that so far. We have already 112 votes. And Joe, the right field. Right field was an issue that spoke to many people. That right now is running second in terms of the electorate out there at 15%, 17 votes, and everything's gotten a vote. Dog Day. There are people feeling solidarity with Celeste Rodonio. 2 votes. Just 2, but that's 2% of the vote is angst toward the vacating of Dog Day. And let's face it, there's nothing like the White Sox saying it's okay for 40,000 of us to get together, largely unmasked, cheering loudly. And from what I heard, drinking a lot of beer. But boy, those dogs, don't let them in. Bar them at the door. No barking. Okay, well, thanks everybody for reading, listening. Any last words from anyone here? Adrian's got his guitar. Tommy is plotting feats of strength. Joe Resis, he's got Indianapolis business. He's got, I got to tell you, everybody, he's behind. There's like memos he's got to answer. There's a lot of Indianapolis field office stuff he's got to hop on. And, you know, hey, you got time. Season's over. You got time, Joe. And Zach, apparently shopping himself to other podcasts where he is not going to talk about Dallas Keuchel or Tony La Russa or Craig Kimbrell. And, well, okay, good luck. I don't know what there is left to talk about, but hopefully it's going to be good, happy things. Yeah. Feats of strength is coming.
Exactly. Like we've aired our grievances. Now we can finally start to move on from this season and start to worry about this CBA negotiation.
Oh my God. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. All right. Well, separate airing of grievances. Okay. Well, now we have a new story to write. Okay. Well, I guess after feats of strength, we get to talk about the CBA. Thanks, Adrian. Great. You've just Grinch Serrano. I always look for nicknames for people. We got the Grinch. Okay. Well, at any rate, for the Grinch, for the Indianapolis field office, for the originator, Mr. Tommy Barbee, who's going to be leading us right into feats of strength. And of course, Zach Hayes, the man who is no longer going to write about Craig Kimbrell, at least until spring training. I'm Brett Ballantini. Thank you for joining us thank you, Mary Soxivus. Thank you for joining us for Soxivus. And thank you for some of the comments. Actually, there's some actual good things that we missed on shifts and whatnot that make a lot of sense too, readers. So thanks for listening, reading. As always, we got more crap coming your way, including a whole lot of minor league stuff in the next week and a half or so. So keep on tuning in. We're going to have more stuff at you probably before you're ready for it.